You're seeing real police officers chasing a real human being and shooting him in the back. To accept that fact is quite terrifying.
After a series of high-profile shootings by police officers across America, a crisis is gathering pace.
They better stop killing our kids, because we gonna fight back. They start the war, we gonna finish it.
You can't stop the revolution!
You can't stop the revolution!
In a year when police shot dead more than 1,000 civilians, one man is on a mission to put an end to the killings.
The stakes are very high because right now, policing is on the front page of every newspaper weekly, if not daily.
If I have to take another individual's life to protect my life, to protect my partner's life, or to protect an innocent citizen or bystander's life, I'll do it.
I tell myself every day that I might have to take someone's life.
In Camden, New Jersey, Officer Tyrell Bagby is patrolling the streets of one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in America.
You don't know what you're going to do until that particular situation happens to you.
They're responding to reports of a disturbance at an abandoned housing block.
When you're entering an abandoned building with so many unknowns, you have to make sure that you're able to protect yourself, because at the end of the day, you have to go home safe.
Okay, police department, anyone in the building? Speak up now!
Last year alone, police across America shot and killed more than 1,000 people.
Ready? Yep.
At least 1 in 10 shot dead by officers turns out to be unarmed.
Kim County PD! Come on out, hands up now!
Face away, turn away. Come back.
Keep coming back.
Come on, what's over here?
He's got track marks on his left arm.
Close.
With the situations going on at the present time with officers shooting citizens and citizens shooting officers, when people see firearms, they're smart enough to know it's a serious deal.
We understand, you guys are in a tough spot being out here. It's tough. We're gonna let you both go with a verbal warning.
These guys, they don't know what they're going in there and what they're up against. I could have, reached for something and they thought there might have been a weapon, I could have been shot.
We have what is called a 21-foot rule. What it means is that that's the danger zone right there, that, you might have to essentially use your firearm to stop the threat.
A white police officer accused of murdering a black man.
The 33-year-old officer fires 8 shots at Scott's back.
Slager's case is the latest in a series of racially charged police shootings around the country.
A white South Carolina state trooper opened fire on an unarmed black man.
More outrage in St. Louis. Police shot and killed a black man.
But the cell phone video appears to tell a different story.
Initial reports are questioned after cell phone video is uncovered.
What an investigation will determine is if a DeKalb County police officer was justified to shoot the man.
Now what Wilmington police said was a clear, justified shooting has a community demanding an investigation.
There is a crisis across America. It's a dangerous world out there, but the officers are the professionals. We give them guns. We say, okay, you're allowed to have a weapon and you're allowed to use it when it is proper. When you have officers using their weapon when it's not proper and people are getting killed, it's a problem.
Stand up, we want freedom, freedom, all these dirty racist cops, we don't need them.
In Chicago, the families of African-American men shot by the police are calling for the cops to be charged with murder.
These police officers been killing our kids, and we tired.
I'm tired. I hurt every night because my only son gone. He didn't just take my son, he took my best friend. And the pain I'm feeling, he gonna feel it too, because I ain't going nowhere.
A few blocks away, the Chicago PD is hosting the largest annual gathering of senior police.
Police from all over the world, Chicago, New York, Ferguson, are in this building sharing tips on how to more effectively increase the police state in this era of mass incarceration that we live in, that is destroying black lives and black communities, and in fact not making us safe as they say, but actually putting our lives in more danger. There's never been a time where there has been trust between the black community and policing, because there's never been a time where the police have not been violent and not particularly targeted black Americans.
The men and women in charge of the country's 900,000 armed officers are assembling. The policing crisis in America has reached a critical point.
Every day, you risk your lives so that the rest of us don't have to. But you know as well as I do that the tensions in some communities, the feeling that law enforcement isn't always applied fairly, those sentiments don't just come out of nowhere. We all have a responsibility to do something about it because it's part of our legacy.
There are an estimated 300 million guns in America. In Richmond, California, one of the most violent cities in the country, officers seize hundreds of illegal firearms each year.
There's years worth of stuff in here, huh? There should never any supply of guns in America, right? I mean, manufacturers don't stop making them, do they? Let's see. See how strong I am. Oh, packages of guns.
Chief Alwyn Brown has policed the violent streets of Richmond for more than 3 decades.
This is a closet where blood-soaked items can hang to dry.
He now leads a force of 200 sworn officers.
You don't get to make mistakes, so out in the field, it's real, and there's really no second chances.
This carries 30 rounds, where my gun only carries 8. If there's a bad guy over there and I'm trying to have a distance shot and I have a scope on it, sight, it can shoot at a longer range much more accurately.
Officer Enrique Melgoza has been a cop here for 8 years.
We run towards the bullets when people are running away. That's basically our job. That's what we get paid to do. You can never be prepared or trained perfectly for every situation. You can just be prepared and trained to the best of your ability to handle the situation. If somebody says you're not scared, like I said, they're lying to you. I get scared a couple times a day.
So they can cover more ground, the majority of police officers in America ride solo.
It's a brotherhood. We all want to take care of each other. We all want to make sure everybody goes home, whether it's to their significant others, to their family. We're dealing with the shitbirds of society that not only want to defy and create crime, but also harm or kill police officers.
Police have pulled over a vehicle driving with no number plates. These officers have started wearing body cameras to capture every interaction with the public.
You mind if I pat you down, just make sure you got no weapons? It's just strange what happened, okay?
I mean, kind of, but...
Why is that? Just stay seated. Stay seated.
It's like, you know, my rights. I feel like, I mean, you really don't have a reason to search me.
The only thing that you know that's going to occur every day is you're going to come to work and you're going to put on your uniform, and that's it. You don't know if you're going to get shot. You don't know if you're going to have to shoot somebody or use force or take another individual's life.
I don't feel like you should search me now.
Okay, do me a favor. Turn around. Put your other hand behind your back. $12.21.
He's got a gun.
Keep your hands on the dash. Keep your hands on the dash. Sit in.
It's a Glock .23, and I'll tell you, it's loaded, so it's ready to fire right now.
It's another case of DWB.
And he's driving while you're black.
And as soon as he seen 3 black people reverse, instantly flicked on the lights.
He's just trying to make it a racist thing. He's trying to say we pulled him over simply because he's black, when it has nothing to do with it. That's the biggest thing, is that everything is made into a racial issue. The cops are racist, the cops are doing this, the cops are doing that. Well, if you notice, I'm not black, I'm Mexican. He's not black, he's Asian. He's not white either, though. So it's not like we pulled him over strictly because they're black. What was that? Why is there a war on the police? It doesn't make any sense. You get into the point where officers are getting in trouble for just simply doing their job. They're being called, racist, or they're, heavy-handed. They just want to beat up people, or they're just, crooks with a gun, whatever. I've heard it all. You're getting to a point to where officers are just going to do absolutely nothing. They're not going to go out and just make car stops or stop people on the corners that are selling drugs. They're just going to sit in their car, wait for a call to come out, and respond to that call. And they're going to do absolutely nothing else. I mean, one gun off the street is one gun off the street. One less gun out there to hurt us or other individuals, but it's not going to stop criminals from getting guns at all. So even the gun laws are not going to stop criminals. You try and make people turn in guns. Good people are going to turn into guns, but the criminals aren't, obviously. So when you take the guns away from good people, criminals are still going to have guns. So the good people are not going to be able to protect themselves from the criminals.
It seems that it was not politically convenient for the public to be aware of the truth of this instance at the time, so the police department were trying to cover up or bury any of the proof or the video of this horrific, brutal murder.
He firmly believed that he was in fear for his life, and he was concerned about the life of his fellow officers.
Attorney Dan Herbert knows everyone will soon see the dashcam video of what happened that night on Pulaski Road when Laquan McDonald, armed with a knife and reportedly under the influence of drugs, was shot and killed. He says it will show an officer simply following police guidelines about the use of deadly force against knife-wielding suspects.
Laquan McDonald was a 17-year-old who had been a ward of the state, so in and out of the foster system for much of his life, I believe. There was a call for a disturbance for a young man, and he had a knife at the time and was walking in the street. The police pulled up on him, and he continued walking and was walking away from him. And a police officer shot him down to the ground, shot him 16 times. And then as he was lying dying, shot into his body.
There is this 21-foot rule, which essentially talks about how an individual is a significant threat to a police officer when they are within that 21-foot boundary.
When you're talking about how police operate, there's formal rules and there's informal rules. Okay, so the formal rules, you read the regulations and everything, and you listen and you go to it. Informal rules trump formal rules. Informal rules are like, hey, you learn all of this stuff in a car, you learn all this stuff in the academy, you get in a car with someone and say, listen, kid, let me just tell you something. Are you familiar with the 21-foot rule? I said, what's that? Said, well, this guy, came up with the science that if you're within 21 feet, they get within 21 feet. It's you or them.
With a reactionary gap of about 1 foot or less, it's impossible for you to react quickly enough to even touch your holstered sidearm once the attack begins. At about 5 feet, the average officer can't even get his sidearm unholstered. Tests with hundreds of officers reveal that in most cases, a minimum reactionary gap of 21 feet is required to react and deliver at least 2 rounds and to have enough time to move out of the attacker's path.
What the 21-foot rule has done in the United States, in some places, I won't say everywhere, but in some places it has been like, I've heard, you know, one time in New York City, it was considered by some, you know, a license to shoot someone. That if they came within that distance, it's either you or them. It's 1.2 seconds they can get to you. So it's like taking on those things, either formal or informal, and knocking them down.
Chuck Wexler is a former hostage negotiator with the Boston PD. He now leads a team focused on putting an end to the epidemic of shootings.
Look at this. They're dealing with it. He's got a machete. Look at all the police.
Chuck has discovered that unarmed police officers in some parts of the UK routinely face violent suspects armed with knives and sharp weapons.
They are back. Look at the distance. Look how close they are. And he's coming at them with a machete. Look how they use a baton. He used a baton there. Look how many. There must be 20. And they just surround him with their shields.
Chuck's determined to reduce police use of deadly force, but it will involve retraining almost 1 million armed officers.
When you think about, you know, what we're trying to do here, getting Americans to get their head around this different approach, do you think, is that going to be a hard sell in policing? Which is great.
He believes the answer may lie 3,500 miles away. Chuck has convinced 25 police chiefs from major departments across America to travel with him to Scotland.
Good morning. How are you? I'm Alan Gibson from Police Scotland.
Nice
Tom,
to meet you,
nice
Alan.
to meet you. How you doing?
Hi, George.
Hi, George. Alan Gibson from Police Scotland. Nice to meet you. Hi, good morning.
Nice to meet you. Chuck McClellan.
Strangely enough, I don't know why. No one said no. But I don't know that they would have said yes had we not had this past year. In other words, had there not been one incident after another, after another, after another, you know, I'm not saying, well, Chuck, well, you know, it's very interesting you're going to Scotland, but, you know, I got a major Boston Police Department to run, or New York, or Chicago, or, you know, wherever, Los Angeles, all the places they came. Scotland sounds interesting. I'd love to come, but I'm very busy. They dropped what they had to do. It's that significant. They dropped what they had to do to be here.
Now, if someone's got their hands in their pockets, why do we need to resolve that?
Nationally.
Sergeant Jim Young trains hundreds of new recruits each year at Scotland's Police Academy.
Now, I know in America you have your 21-foot rule. This is slightly different.
We actually don't have a 21. We don't.
Oh, sorry. I apologise. I'm aware that what has been said in the past. Yes, sorry.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Some departments do have a 21-foot rule. With all due respect, they do.
Mike Moore from Los Angeles. Out of 17,000 agencies, that's a very broad brush.
Well, that's what we teach in the academy. So whether you like to say it's a rule or not, it's become the platform for our whole use of force. And that's really what's been the debate for the last year.
The fact is, you got to base it on the behavior of the person with the knife. If the person with the knife's just sitting in a chair, you know, holding the knife, and I walk up, you know, within 5 feet of that person, the person didn't approach me, I approached that person. So, you know, that's where we're talking to cops now about, you know, let's not create the moment where deadly force has to be used.
It's Friday night in Glasgow. Chuck is joining Sergeant Jim Young on a fact-finding mission with the city centre night shift.
Obviously, with recent events that have taken place, just ask you to be a wee bit more vigilant for any suspicious people, packages, or any sort of suspicious behaviour.
Should we head off then? Yep, I'm ready. Let's go.
Good night. Take care.
Sergeant Jim is supervising the night shift in central Glasgow. He's been with the police for 20 years. They're responding to reports of an altercation.
He was kicking the front door in.
He's kicking the front door in.
Yeah. There was an allegation that he had a knife in him.
They get here quickly, and I think, you know, they start talking and they outnumber him.
The recent release of dashcam footage showing a teenager being gunned down by a Chicago PD officer has shaken American policing to its core.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to comprehend, to see a situation like that unfold. It's gut-wrenching. But that's why we're here. We can do better.
When you look at maybe the two styles of policing, you know, if you look at the American style of policing, it's very authoritative. There's a difference of having to go straight in up at this level, whereby you're ordering people, you're shouting at them. You can't go anywhere after that.
Yes.
But if you start down low, you can adjust your communications to suit.
Huh, wonder why he's running. This guy's, whoa, he's running after him.
Back in Chicago, following a dashcam release, tensions are growing.
They just value police lives so highly that one cop, right, is worth the same as 100 dead black people.
I said you can't stop the revolution! You can't stop the revolution! You can't stop the revolution! You can't stop the revolution!
I don't think it is an accident, a mistake, or incorrect for police to feel that they are in a war, because they are.
Another dashcam video of a Chicago cop shooting a young black male.
Shots fired, about to focus. We got shots fired, shots fired. Shots fired. Shots fired by the police. We got shots fired. Get an ambulance over. We got a traffic department over here, squad.
All right, 10-4.
Officers went to the 5300 block of King Drive at about midnight. They saw a man matching the description of the gunman and went after him.
21 Rob, we got you over there.
What's fascinating is from the police department is that they first went on the news that night because they wanted to control the media. They wanted to control the story.
All right, male black running southbound on King, beige sweatshirt, black pants.
Police say the man pointed a gun in the officer's direction during the chase. Then one of the officers fired.
We got shots fired, shots fired.
Shots fired.
The man was pronounced dead at a hospital. Police say they recovered a weapon at the scene.
Shots fired by the police.
We got shots fired. Get an ambulance over here. We got...
Somebody is dying before your eyes. To accept that fact is quite terrifying.
Over here, 513.
All right, 513. Any officer's head.
The police immediately said that night that Ronnie turned, pointed a weapon at the police officer. The police officer feared for his life and for the lives of others, and he fired his weapon.
The Chicago Police Department has retracted the statement that Ronald Johnson turned and pointed a gun, but they still claim that a firearm was found in his hand.
The reason why I'm here because it is very important for me to clear my son's name, because I want to know why was my son killed, and y'all got on TV and lied and said he had a gun in his hand.
Shots fired. Shots fired by the police.
We got shots fired. Get an ambulance.
You know what the foot chase you got here?
Then we're approaching the intersection and the street where Ronald Johnson was shot in the back. As we get to the corner of 53rd and Martin Luther King Drive, Ronnie turns the corner and heads to the right. Officer Hernandez's unmarked police car arrives at an angle. As Ronnie is running full speed, he enters the street Officer Hernandez gets out of his car. He draws his weapon. He takes aim after taking a few steps towards Ronald Johnson's back. Two gunshots strike Ronnie in the back of the right knee. One strikes him in the back shoulder and travels through his body, severs his jugular vein, and comes out through his eye socket. Ronald Johnson was murdered right here, but he makes it across the street. He staggers, he falls into the grass, and this is where his body lay.
They shot him in the back as he was running away. End of story. And you can't do that. But he did. They then covered it up because they're saying they recovered a gun from his right hand. And if he didn't have a gun in his hand as he was running, there can't be a gun in his right hand unless the police put it there.
He was a mama's boy. All his girlfriends knew. You a mama boy. So yeah, he was a mama's boy, but he was still my baby. Yeah. To lose somebody on the streets of Chicago being gunned down by the people that's supposed to serve and protect you, that's a hateful crime. That was real hateful. Yep. But it ain't over with yet. It's a long ways from being over. No mother should have to bury their child. Let them live till they get old and die on their own. Why they got to get murdered? Who knows this picture? Karan. Who is this? Karan, who is this?
Dorothy Holmes has been fighting for justice for her son, Ronald Johnson, for more than a year now.
We demand Cook County State's Attorney Anita Alvarez fire and charge the CPD officer who murdered Ronnie Man.
In Glasgow, the chase is over. Chuck and the officers have safely apprehended a pickpocket.
I think in the back of every police officer's mind, there's always that key, there's always that kind of element to they could have, and it's what ifs and buts. You know, you could have a weapon on them. Most weapons, obviously, we deal with in Glasgow could be, you know, they could extend from knuckle dusters to knives to, you know, you name it, it could be anything. Don't spit again, you understand?
Over the coming days, these Scottish officers will demonstrate how they tackle armed suspects without resorting to deadly force.
You have to say to the skeptics, look, you know, as far as guns is concerned, America has a very different situation. And we did not come to Scotland to ask Scotland to help us deal with guns.
What's your name?
Dave! You're right! Drop it!
Police Scotland officers are trained to step back from armed suspects and use their vehicles for cover.
You're calm down, hand it down and put the knife down. Just explain the CSP to your hands off your chest. Stop rubbing your eyes. The effects are changing.
In many parts of America, things would be handled differently.
The knife one, he's getting shot. Right. That guy's getting shot.
Yeah.
He's getting shot. There ain't no, he's getting shot.
Get your fucking hands off. Fucking wankers.
Somebody picks up a rock or brick, is going to throw it at you, we will probably pull a gun and tell you to drop the weapon.
It's the proportionality. How would society over here think about you shooting someone with a rock? They would not accept it.
Well, they're talking about the preservation, really, of the suspect's life. And that is not as high up on our list when we're... Exactly. When we are faced with a level of aggression in America that I don't think they see here, the level of violence in America that we see here, and the complete disrespect sometimes of policing. So I think when you say preservation of life, it is everybody's life. Ours has a pecking order. I'm just being honest.
The way change happens in police departments is you get a group of police departments like this, and then they start doing it, and they, you know, people start to learn. Some of this of what we're attempting to do here is completely opposite of American thinking.
How is it that, 98% of their officers are unarmed, and yet they still carry out their duty of enforcing law and bringing offenders to justice? And how is it that even with the armed officers, that the instances of an officer-involved shooting is such a rarity?
Clearly, in Scotland, their entire model is built on every decision coming back to their code of ethics, which includes human rights. That's a foreign concept to us. Not that we don't value people or human rights. We're not terrible people who want to do bad things. It's just that our culture's not designed to think like this.
John, we're trying to get you some help, okay? What's happened, John? You need to tell us what's happened.
If the ultimate result is both parties go home safely, that's huge. That's huge. The cops look terrific. The cops, they risked their lives to resolve something in a win-win situation. And that, to me, was the epiphany.
What's happening, and I'm growing increasingly weary as a police chief, is explaining to my county executives how the hell is it we can fire 28 rounds between 2 or 3 officers and the guy has a remote control in his pocket, a chair leg, in one case, a bar of soap. But at the same time, my son's on the job. I don't want the kid busted up, scarred up, out of work, lose a job, die.
Nobody's going to die by having better effective communication, more strategies, tactical strategies to deal with someone in a volatile situation. Nobody's going to die from learning de-escalation techniques. And so there's a whole, and I'm forgetting half the things, but there's a whole host of things that we picked up here where we can start, and it starts us in the right direction.
We have to instill in our troops that I'm going to put policies in place. We're going to train to de-escalate. We're going to make sure that you're safe, and by ensuring that you, my officers, report off safely at night, you're going to ensure that the public reports off safely. And it's something one of you guys said. Whether they report off safely to jail or to a mental institution or however it works, we're going to do our best to get them to that position.
Back in Richmond, California, the officers are responding to reports of a man with a gun.
Don't move. Richmond police, do not move. Don't move. Get down on the ground. Down on the ground, keep your hands where we can see him.
What are you talking about? Why are you gripping my hands for? What did I do?
We'll explain everything in just a second, sir.
Sure?
Oh, it's a cap gun.
Okay.
The weapon is a toy.
Boss? Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah.
Look at that, painted black compared to this. And it's not. It's a pretty good similarity if you don't know the difference.
Hey, you know what? Destroy this for me.
And like if you run into somebody in the dark like that and let's say he decides to turn around on an officer with that, I mean, we don't have the time to think, hey, is that real or is that fake? We think he's going to try and kill us with that. And that would cause us to shoot him and possibly kill him. And then come to find out later on, once it's all done, that it was a fake gun, but we don't know that.
Officers here go from call to call throughout their 10-hour shift. They never know what to expect.
We're trying to make contact with the suspect. He came to the front door with a hatchet in his hand and then threatened the cops.
Apparently he's schizophrenic and barricaded himself armed with a hatchet. Premise shows 3 officers and a sergeant to respond.
It's more than a year since Dorothy and her legal team started their campaign to have the officer who killed her son, Ronald, charged with murder.
No way blood could have gone there. There is no gun in his hand, and you can't say that there's a gun in his hand. You know, I think the video speaks for itself. I think it is grainy. I think you see him running. I think you see him running at full speed. I think he does, you know, they've been caught in their lies already.
Although Dorothy's lawyer believes Ronald was wrongfully shot dead, There is still no evidence to support his theory that the police planted a weapon the night of the killing.
We're still hoping that the feds will come in and charge this guy.
They're awaiting the result of the state attorney's investigation.
The RCFL processed a still frame from that video at our request. We were trying to determine if there was visual proof of the weapon in Johnson's hands. And this is the result of their work. After the shooting, several officers ran over to Ronald Johnson and indicated they observed the weapon in his hand. Officer Hernandez later secured it in the trunk of a sergeant's vehicle.
A drop of blood on the gun matched Ronald's DNA.
Didn't the original report say that he had turned and fired at them? The original police report on this, didn't it say that
No, you know what, there might have been, and we've been seeing this more and more, a certain spokesperson who would go out and say things at the site of a police shooting. I wouldn't rely on any of those statements. Is there an object in his hand? I submitted there's an object in his hand.
You said that you had outside agencies.
Yeah, RCFL.
Did they conclude that's a gun in his hand?
They don't give an opinion.
Could you speak to the enhancement? Was that hand darkened at all, or?
I don't know. No, I don't believe so. Based on the totality of the evidence in this case, and with the very, very careful analysis of the laws of the state of Illinois, it is our determination that no criminal charges will be filed against Officer Hernandez in connection with the shooting death of Ronald Johnson.
They say when Ronald fell, grass got stuck in the gun.
Hi.
And one witness thought they heard him cocking a gun earlier that day.
You okay? The fight is just starting, you know that, right? Okay? It's just starting. Fuck them. Okay, you got that? Fuck them. Okay?
All right.
So I'm gonna do my thing, and then you want to go in there with me? Okay, and I'll ask you some questions. You ready? Okay, follow me. The Chicago Police Department issued a statement that Ronald Johnson turned and pointed a gun at Officer Hernandez, and in fearing for his safety and the safety of others, he fired. Anita belittles that, but that is a statement from the Chicago Police Department. There is no proof, there is nothing to tie Ronald Johnson to anything to do with that gun.
I want that case reopened, and I want him charged for murder.
Despite her lawyer's belief that the gun was planted on Ronald after he was shot, the state attorney's investigation has concluded that the shooting was lawful.
He was at a house party.
Police officers in Richmond, California are responding to a 911 call.
Police department.
Earlier today, the suspect threatened to kill his neighbor with a hatchet.
Can you please come to the door without anything in your hands, please? What you say, nigga? Who the fuck you think you is? Put the hatchet down. Put the hatchet down, please. Please put the hatchet down. Please drop the hatchet. Drop the hatchet, okay? Please drop. Hey, we just want to talk. Can you drop the hatchet so we can talk?
Back away from the window. He's got the hatchet. He could throw it through the window. Back up.
I want to talk to him at the window, and I want to be as, personable and as, non-threatening as possible, but at the same time, I'm not going to take an axe to my head.
As part of their new UK-style de-escalation tactics, the officers are ordered to withdraw to avoid using deadly force. The new approach is not popular with all the officers.
Anybody have a problem with this, Stephen?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
a little bit. If we would have gone in, we would have used force on him, just under the circumstances, and it's not going to be nice, but on the flip side, too, it's kind of like we're just letting these two neighbors that live within 10 feet of this crazy guy go back into your house.
But it's not even the fact that if he hurts the neighbors, what if he goes crazy again, goes outside and hurts someone else? Even if he just hurts him, doesn't kill him, it's still like police didn't do their job and left.
Apparently he's schizophrenic and barricaded himself yesterday and was armed with a hatchet. Premise shows 3 officers and a sergeant to respond.
What's that? You guys are hanging out front, partition. The inside is typical schizophrenic setup. Who's at the front door? What's that? Hey, right there. Is that him?
Yep, that's him.
The suspect is on the roof.
Hey, who's watching the rooftops in case he gets on top of us again?
Like 1 in 5 of all civilians killed by police officers, he suffers from mental illness.
He just walked across. He was inside? Yes, he was inside.
Do you see any weapons in the room anywhere near him? Just so they can be aware.
The kitchen window is completely wide open.
Okay.
So we have an access point. Here's our exigency, our point while we're going in case things go bad, is he's already terrorizing the neighbors. He's already been shown to be dangerous. We left him alone last night, and he's still acting crazy.
We saw him on the rooftop when we got
We saw him on the rooftop, and then it's just going to get worse and worse and worse progressively.
The officers decide to take action.
I know you can hear me. Come on. It's the right thing to do. That's all I want you to do, man. Come out of your room with your hands up.
We're going into somebody else's home, so who knows where he has weapons hidden in the house.
You going in? What? Dog. Drop both his hands.
Take one under custody, stand by.
The handcuffs on him, he didn't resist or anything like that, you know, which is a great result considering his actions earlier, either today and then yesterday, were pretty violent. So it's nice that he didn't fight us.
He had knives and a lot of edge weapons placed around his house, which is common with people that suffer from paranoia or schizophrenia. You just never know what he's going to do. Tomorrow might be the day that he snaps and decides to chop up somebody instead of a door.
If a suspect, an armed person with this type of edged weapon, were to present it to an officer in a threatening manner, he could be killed. We could shoot the person lawfully.
Talk to the psychologist, okay?
Sure, 23, route to the 4th.
Officers made entry into the residence through an unlocked rear sliding door. The hatchet used was seized as evidence, and the suspect was taken into custody without incident.
In Chicago, the government has stepped in to reform the police department.
I'm here to announce that the Department of Justice has opened an investigation into whether the Chicago Police Department has engaged in a pattern or practice of violations of the Constitution or federal law.
After a job well done back in Richmond, Officer Melgoza is called in to see the chief.
This commendation is being presented to you as an acknowledgement of the bravery and courage you displayed by your actions.
The U.S. and the state it's in, I hope that society realizes that police are here for a reason, and we're not the bad guys.
Dorothy continues her struggle for justice for her son, Ronald.
When his father passed, he was just 1. Once he get old enough to understand what death means, then I'll be able to tell him, your father was killed by Chicago police.
And Chuck and his team have launched their new training program to hundreds of police forces across America.
It's about time that we kind of step up, and this is our chance, this is our opportunity, and it's a crisis, right? But it's also, a chance to do the right thing.
All right, tell your daddy, say I love you. All right, say see you later.